Good morning and welcome to Motivational Monday. My sincere apologies about the different environment I'm videoing today. As many of you might know from Facebook, we're in the middle of renovations for the bedroom. So everything from my bedroom has now just been shifted into my office upstairs while we get the carpets fitted today. So a slightly different scene for you today. But this is actually the workshop room where we, so the flip chart's over there. So we've got, this is a space that we run our retreats in. But straight onto the subject, for those who don't know me, I'm Cheryl Andrews. I'm the founder of Step by Step Listening, and I'm author of the book Manage Your Critic, From Overwhelm to Clarity in 7 Steps. And today I want to talk to you about how to conquer the time monster. So one of the things that over the years I was working with people, my job was always they would tell me what they wanted to have happen. I would ask them questions. So I'd ask them, what kind of that? Is there anything else about that? And over time, the client starts to recognize patterns. They might just start to find out there's language, there's words they keep repeating, or situations or behaviors or responses they get from their communications that keep occurring, keep cropping up. And it's usually when these things keep repeating is when we get the overwhelm, because it's the fear, the frustration that I've been here before, how did this happen again, and all of that kind of dialogue that goes on. And so when I started to really listen to the language patterns that were going on and looking at what happened when they had clarity and they had confidence and they were really going for it versus when they were in overwhelm, a lot of it came down to how we were talking to ourselves. So that's why managing our critic is so important, understanding what it is we're saying to ourselves. And over time, we started with language, first of all, being curious about the individual words. So if I ask you the question, what would you like to have happen? And you write a statement out, pick 3 words that you're drawn to, and then you might ask yourself, what kind of, is there anything else about that? The next thing I'd look at is the pronouns, because sometimes people might be saying, well, I want them to be better at something. And what we have to do when we're thinking about changing something, we have to think about, so if you want them to be more motivated or more assertive or more productive, ask yourself, how do you need to be? Because if this is part of your system, then the thing that you can change is you. So you might have to ask in a different way. You might need to tell them. You might need to stop doing it for them. There might be all sorts of things, but that's the bit that you can control. So the thing I looked at next was the pronouns, and really starting to think about, am I saying what I want, or am I saying what I want for them? And so I'd ask clients questions like, what kind of we, or what kind of I? And if I said, what kind of we, invariably they go, well, actually, it's not really we, it's me. And if I say they, you want them, or you want them to do something, I was like, what kind of them? Well, go, actually, I can't really change anything about them, but I need to do this. So the first level to conquer your time monster, the thing that saps your energy, that takes away all of your drive, your motivation, etc., is to check your language and make sure that you are saying what you mean and you mean what you say. So if you're saying something to yourself or other people, is it getting you the response that you want? So one of the things that I noticed is that when people said they were criticizing themselves or other people around time, so it might be, oh, well, I haven't got enough time, or I'm running out of time, or it's taking too long, or this is taking forever, or it's going too quickly. It was all about speed and quantity of time. Then if you you think about your own energy levels, I know that if I say, oh, I haven't got enough time, I can literally feel the time monster just zapping my energy and taking it away from me. Whereas when I have a belief that everything is just the way it needs to be and I have all the time in the world, I'm calmer. It's like it takes all my system just settles, all the fizzle goes from it. And those of you who read the book, you'll know that one of the things that helps us to think with clarity is to have blood in our neocortex part of the brain. And when we're in fight, flight or freeze, so we're scared, running out of time, or we're fighting against this monster, then what happens is our reptilian brain at the back gets all of the blood and we can't think very clearly. So now I'm not saying that there aren't situations where you are genuinely running out of time. But what I want to talk to you today about the strategy is for you to really tap into as a resource, have a model for, and trust your own process of how you feel, how you speak, what you do when you believe, when there is a situation, when you have all the time in the world. All right? Because if you can get yourself to that mindset first, then when you are running out of time, if you can switch into that kind of state, that way of thinking, you at least the time that you have got left and the time you're working with, you'll be able to think with more clarity. Whereas if you are constantly got a mantra of, they're not doing it fast enough, I'm not doing it fast enough, I can't do this, actually all your energy is going into your brain trying to protect you, rather than your brain being available to think with you and for you to make really good decisions. So thinking about that right now, and that's the model today, is if you've got all the time in the world, that's like what? So thinking about the thing that's perhaps happening in your life right now, if you had all the time in the world, what would be the first thing that you'd do? And then what happens? And then what happens? And start to map it out. Because what I found for me personally is that whenever I have a goal that's got 18 months for me to achieve it, I always have a very clear plan and I'm very calm about it. And then I write out my first thing that I need to do and what thing I need to do every single day for the next 7 days. So I'll have a few simple tasks that I need to do one of those every single day for the next 7 days, because I know I've got 18 months to achieve it. And whenever I do that, guess what? I achieve the goals often in far less time. But the minute I think I've got less time, my brain seems to shut down. So now what I do, in a way I kind of trick it, is I pretend that whatever I'm working on is I've got 18 months to achieve it. So that I can get very clear what's the first thing I need to do and then what do I need to do. And when I've got that clear plan, I then think, okay, so if I've only got 90 days, what needs to happen for all of that to happen? If I've only got a month, or I've only got a week. And that's when often you might need to invest more money. Maybe you need to pay people to do stuff, or you might need to outsource things in order to get things done quicker and faster. And there are some things in life I've come to understand that, particularly about our personal growth, about developing things, particularly if you're developing ideas like writing a book, or you're developing videos like this, or you're growing a business, or nurturing and growing a family, there are some things, just like nature, that you can't rush. That you simply have to make sure that you create the right conditions and that you observe the change as it's happening and truly celebrate it, because then that reassures you and your system that whilst you have no control how quickly this happens, it is going to happen. So it's about knowing, so you take plants as a metaphor. If you knew growing your business that what you need to do is make sure that the pot has plenty of good nutrition and soil in it, you need to make sure that there is water being applied, that it's been given the right plant food if it needs it, it's in the right space, it's got the humidity if it requires it. So all the right conditions are there for that to happen. And then you can start to watch and observe the growth and the shoots. So as you know, for example, I've got some crocus bulbs on my windowsill in the kitchen. So they were in the dark in the cupboard for 10 weeks, but I had to keep the soil moist. So I could observe, and because somebody's done it before, they've told me it'll be 10 weeks. And that's one of the challenges when you're doing something for the first time yourself. You don't always know how long it's going to take. So all you can do is do it the first time. And I talk about it under the trust process in the book, is model out what happens, how long it took you, and then the next time you do it, you can anticipate how long it's going to be, and that can start to alleviate stress that comes from how long you think should be and how long as they are. But I knew it had to take 10 weeks in the dark. Then I took them out and I had to keep them watered and put them on the side, and then I could see little tiny shoots, and now the shoots are about this tall. But I also know, because of past experience and the little packet that says I'm going to have these flowers at the end, I know what to anticipate. And sometimes in life, when we're setting goals, we don't have a past track record of how we do it or how long we take over it. So that's why it's really important to model out how you do things and for you to track the time accurately to work out how long it takes you. So I know for me to write a book, my last book took me 6 years. But from the day I decided I was absolutely serious to write it, it took me 18 months. No surprise for me personally, because most of my goals have an 18-month time frame. So I'm now seriously committed to my book. I've been doing my fluffy bit and thinking about it for 6 months. I've committed to it 100% now, and it will be out in spring of next year. And because I've done that before, I have a model and I know what I need to do in order to make that happen. But what I caught myself this morning doing is saying, I looked at all the things I want to achieve. So getting fitter, there's some redecoration in the house to be done. There's an online program I want to develop. I want to write the second book. There's a list of things I want to achieve in my business and in my personal life. And when I went down and what's the obstacles, what's in the way, what's stopping it right now, out of 10 goals, time came up 6 times. Well, I know that's not true. I know that what it is I don't have a clear plan, and I haven't looked at, okay, what works and how often do I need to do it. So I'm going now to break those goals down to actually think about. So when I wrote a book last time, when I lost weight, we're back in again, sorry. So I can go back to some of those things that I've done before. Excuse my coughing. I can go back to my models of how I did it before, and I can start to work out what I need to do every single week, every single day, and even what I've got to do every hour in order to make those goals achievable. And then instead of saying I haven't got time or times of pressure, it's, you know, because that mantra in my head is it just makes me feel, and my energy goes, I feel demotivated. But what I've also realised is that for me, often and nearly always, my why is my family. And so I've realised the other question I asked is, what's the impact on me, my business and my family if I achieve this goal? So first of all is, you know, what happens if I don't do it, and what happens if I do it? And I've realised that I've got a huge list of emotional drivers now where I'm a better role model to my children, a better role model to my clients. I take the pressure off my husband to produce all the income in the household. So there's lots of drivers there now. And so instead of having the language about time, it's not about I don't have time. It's like, how am I going to find the time? When am I going to do that in a day, rather than I haven't got time to do it? So I want you to think of the task I want you to think about now is every time you hear yourself talking about time, notice whether you're talking about it from a place of clarity and confidence. I have all the time in the world, or I know exactly how much time I need, and I'm going to do that, and this is when I'm going to do it. So you have a plan and you're very decisive about it, versus, oh, I'm running out of time, I'm late, or time's going too fast. So just think about your language. If you're criticizing it, if your critic is you're criticizing yourself or other people around time, make a note of all the language you're using. Be curious about it. Check if it's true. Is it really true you're running out of time? Is it really true that it's going too fast? Time is you've got the physical time, you know, you've got a clock up there, so every minute it's going, it's exactly the same measure all the time. So that's the reality of time, but we have our perception of time, and that's usually, in my experience, driven by how we feel about it, how we see it, how we hear it, and how our 5 senses are interpreting the process of time. And that's also dependent on our memory of how long things took before. And most of us don't take the time to actually record and log how long things really take. So if those of you that have done wealth dynamics, you'll know dynamo energy tend to go, yeah, we can do this, you know, let's move them, let's take this from London to Paris, and they're like, oh, it's only 2 inches on the map, because their spatial awareness is they can hold a lot of information in a small amount of space. Therefore, their perception of time is they often overestimate what they can get done in a period of time. Whereas a tempo energy, who are much more sensory based, very much in the moment, their perception of time is very much, if you say we're going to move from London to Paris, they'll be like in London counting the cobbles and going, well, there's 200 cobbles in this street, because their time perceptions are much smaller, and so they often underestimate what they can achieve in a particular time. And there's lots of evidence out there that we underestimate what we can achieve in a year and overestimate what we can achieve in a month or a week or a day. So that's why it's really important when you're doing business goals or personal goals or planning with your family, is that you use all of the time frames to think about it. So in the year, what would I like to have happen? And in 90 days, 30 days, and this week, and even then down to today, and what do I need to do in the first hour? Because depending how your brain perceives time, you'll find one that you'll be overestimating and one you'll be underestimating in. And it's almost like a law of averages. If you can practice thinking about it over different time frames, then you'll start to find out where your system feels most comfortable. And that's the first thing we want to do, is in order to conquer the time monster, is get back to what is happening, what's the time frame that you are most comfortable in. You know, are you good at doing the detailed planning on a day-to-day basis, or are you more of the big blue sky thinker? Are you good at planning time for other people better than you are planning time for yourself? Find out which time frames work for you. What's the time when time is just the way you'd like it to be and you're managing it and it's perfect? That's like what? Love to hear what you thought from today's video. I would like to know more about your time monster. What's it doing to you? What's not working about it? What is working? And if you can share your comments below, that'd be fab. And please do feel free to find this video on my YouTube channel, which will be up there by tomorrow. And subscribe to the channel on YouTube and keep in touch with me. Have a great week and don't let the time monster eat away your time. Take care.